Welcome back to News Talk, 14 before the hour now. The Arizona Cardinals' overtime victory over the Green Bay Packers was one of the best games of the postseason so far. And as you probably know, the game and its outcome have sparked renewed discussion about how the NFL handles overtime. Our friend Tom Threlkeld is editor-in-chief of the DC Pro Sports Report and joins us now. Welcome back.
Great to be here.
The rules that the NFL has for overtime aren't that old. They're relatively recent.
2012, I think.
And already there's not a tidal wave, and I'm not talking, you know, obviously Green Bay fans are wishing that the game had turned out otherwise.
Right.
And I'm not talking just about some of the discussion emanating from the great state of Wisconsin, but generally the having a team get to overtime in a playoff game where it's win and move on and be part of the last four,
right,
lose and you're done. You get to overtime, you never touch the ball. That seems weird. Talk about where we are on this.
Well, it really, the current rules stem from what happened, I think, 6 years ago when the Vikings played the Saints in the NFC Championship game. It was a fantastic game, led to eventually players, coaches from the Saints getting suspended and so forth. But the point was that Brett Favre and Drew Brees had a fantastic game. It went into overtime. The Saints won the toss, went in, kicked a field goal, and that was the end of it. And people thought, this is ridiculous. Here we have this great match for 60 minutes, and it ends like that. So now you have to score a touchdown to end it on the first possession. If you just kick a field goal, the other team gets the ball back and a chance to either kick a field goal to play on or score a touchdown to win the game.
And basically from that, in that scenario, you have true sudden death. Right. Once the team that touches the ball first doesn't get a touchdown.
Right. Then the next team that scores wins the game. That's right. And
which is the drama part. That's when you're in the backyard with your friends growing up and you play, you know, overtime basketball or
right,
sudden death hockey, you know, it's those moments.
Exactly.
The next points win.
Exactly. I think the objection that a lot of people had to the old rules was that the game, you have this great game perhaps, and it's decided by a kicker, for gosh sakes. And now that really shouldn't be the case. Each team gets a shot at it, and if a kicker decides it, well, that's really your fault if the other team's kicker wins the game. Look, the Packers had a chance to be on the other side of this. The Chicago Bears proposed a rule change allowing both teams to touch the ball in overtime no matter what. And only 3 teams voted for it, and the Packers were not one of them. They voted against it. So they can't complain now. Or they really shouldn't complain now. Now, Clay Matthews has complained a bit. But his teammates really didn't. Julius Peppers, B.J. Raji, they came out and said, look, these are the rules. We knew it. Here's what I would... Now Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk and NBC News wrote an editorial saying, you know, these rules are dumb and both teams should get a chance to touch the ball. But the fact is, you do get a chance to touch the ball. You have to stop the other team first. And here's what I would have suggested to Green Bay. The best player for the Arizona Cardinals for the last decade has been Larry Fitzgerald. Cover him. They made a controversial decision not to cover the other team's best player, a future Hall of Famer, and he went right down the field. I really have no sympathy for Green Bay, and I don't think very many people outside of Wisconsin do.
2 things, and what you say is as always, fascinating. The 2 things are, I think the league shouldn't be involved in changing rules, particularly on something big, but even the more minute, you know, the minutia rules. Don't be changing the rules all the time.
Right.
Study it, come up with what you think is the best thing to do, and then live with it for a while. Don't be, and I'm not suggesting that at this moment the league is thinking about changing. This is just something the talk radio is talking about.
Yeah.
So number 1, don't be changing the rules all the time. Give it a chance to play out over a little bit of time. Secondly, I think the college way of handling overtime is really awful. It feels to me more like a video game than football, so I would rather have a system that we're just kind of meh about than one that's outright bad.
Yeah, here's the thing. Clay Matthews was saying, you know, we should do a college rule, put us on the 25-yard line. We should do that. I couldn't disagree more. To me, that's not real football.
No.
I mean, it does feel more like Sandlot kind of football. You know, we'll start here in the 25-yard line. It's like, why the 25? Why not the 30? Why not the 20? I don't understand how they come upon that. But that's how they do it in college, and that's their business. The thing is, for Green Bay, this is the second straight year this has happened to them in the playoffs. Last year, it was one game later in the NFC Championship game. Remember, they blew that big lead against Seattle. The game went to overtime. Seattle went right down the field and scored a touchdown. And so Green Bay's kind of sensitive to this, perhaps. But again, they have chances to make plays. I think, look, it wouldn't bother me if they changed the rule and said both teams get a chance to touch the ball. That's fine. But the 25-yard thing, that is not, they took a great rule from college, and that was the two-point conversion. That has really made a huge difference in the fourth quarter of football games. It was a fantastic addition, long overdue. This is not a rule they should take from college. If they want both teams to touch the ball, that's fine. I really couldn't care less. But don't do this 25-yard thing. And, you know, when you know what the rules are going in, don't whine about it later. It's not like Clay Matthews would have been complaining if Green Bay had won it that way.
We have a couple minutes left. Let's talk about the Washington Capitals, who remain hot among the elite, maybe the elite team
they are
in
the best.
hockey right now. A bit of a I want to get your thoughts on why this team is performing at such a high level. Here we are, deep into the season, not playoff time or anything, but so far so good for the Washington Capitals. A bit of a scare the other night. Braden Holtby, I guess dehydration takes himself out in the third period.
34-8-3 is their record. They are 17 points up in their division, 14 points up in their conference, 5 points up over the Chicago Blackhawks in the entire NHL.
When you look at the standings, their record looks like a typo.
Yeah, it does. That's right. That's right. They've really had a fantastic season. And as you point out, a key is Braden Holtby. He did take himself out with dehydration. Looks like that's all it is. That needs to be all it is, because he's been the MVP for the Caps this year. He leads the NHL in wins, I believe, since 2012, since the 2012 season, and is tied for second in shutouts. He has been magical this year. He hasn't been great in every single game, but he's been so consistent, so good, and he's really the key. But you know, he's not the only one. Obviously, they're getting great seasons from Alex Ovechkin and Nicholas Backstrom, the sort of stuff that you would expect. But there have been some other sort of, contributors that people don't necessarily think of. Guys like Dmitry Orlov and Nate Schmidt and Taylor Chorney. Guys who you didn't really think that this was going to happen from them. Even a guy who seemed like a disappointment earlier in the season, Andrei Burakovsky, their big, their guy who had such a thrilling rookie season. He started off very slowly, and now he seems to be coming on with a line change move. And Marcus Johansson is having the best season of his career. That's a huge deal for them. So, and they just acquired Mike Richards, and I think Richards will provide the kind of stability they need on their back six. The back six forwards. That he came in. He's only played a couple of games, but I think he won 14 out of 20 face-offs, and he's doing great on penalty kill. Exactly the kind of acquisition they need. So they might not be big players on the February 29th trade deadline, because they might already have the team they need.
Let's hope they can keep this really hot streak going.
Absolutely.
Because it is so very exciting. Tom Threlkeld of the DC Pro Sports Report. As always, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Back with the program note after this.